Did you know that your brain has the power to change and adapt throughout your life? If you struggle with anxiety or ringing in your ears, it might feel like you're stuck in an endless cycle of discomfort. But the good news is that neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to reorganize itself, offers a way out. Joey Remenii, a specialist in vestibular audiology and neuroplasticity, teaches that it's possible to train your brain to reduce these bothersome sensations. And the best part, you can take control of this process, becoming the CEO of your own mind. If you want to learn how to reprogram your brain to relieve anxiety and tinnitus, keep watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more tips on mental health and well-being, neuroplasticity, and brain self-control. Have you ever thought that you could teach your brain to ignore unwanted sensations, such as tinnitus and anxiety? Joey Remenii, an expert in vestibular audiology and neuroplasticity, believes you can. Unlike the traditional approach, which often considers these conditions irreversible, neuroplasticity shows us that our brain is constantly learning and adapting. Think of your brain as a company, and you're the CEO. This means you have the power to decide where to direct your attention and which information should be filtered out. The brain learns from what we repeatedly focus on, and when we choose to dwell on unpleasant sensations like tinnitus, it assumes they must be important and amplifies them. On the other hand, when we train our minds to ignore these signals, the brain learns to prioritize healthier and more positive experiences. Neuroplasticity is the key to achieving brain self-control. Instead of being a prisoner to seemingly uncontrollable sensations, you can train your brain to react differently. Studies show that repeating patterns of thought and behavior can rewire neural pathways, helping to reduce distressing symptoms and improve quality of life. If you're ready to start this change, the first step is understanding that you have the power to reprogram your mind. In the next section, we'll explore how anxiety and focus directly impact brain function, how anxiety and focus affect the brain. Anxiety is our body's natural response to perceived threats. It exists to protect us, preparing the body to react quickly in dangerous situations. However, when this response is triggered frequently and without a real threat, the brain can mistakenly interpret common sensations, such as ringing in the ears, as something dangerous. The brain has an incredible ability to adapt, but it doesn't understand logic the way we imagine. Instead, it responds to the focus and emotional weight we assign to certain stimuli. When you constantly focus on an uncomfortable sensation, like persistent ringing, your brain interprets it as important and keeps it at the center of your attention. This creates a negative reinforcement cycle that intensifies the perception of the issue. Let's use a simple analogy. Imagine you're in a crowded room with people talking, but you choose to focus on one irritating voice. The more attention you give it, the more it seems to stand out. The same happens with anxiety and tinnitus. By paying too much attention to them, you reinforce their presence in your perception. The good news is that we can train the brain to shift focus, reducing the importance it gives to these sensations. This is essential to breaking the cycle of negative reinforcement and forming new neural connections linked to calmness and well-being. Redirecting attention and reprogramming the brain. If you've ever tried to ignore tinnitus or anxiety, you know how challenging it can be. But what if, instead of fighting these sensations, you accepted them as a normal part of your experience? This is the principle of brain reprogramming through acceptance, a powerful strategy that teaches the brain to respond more neutrally to discomfort. When we resist something emotionally, we actually reinforce its presence in our minds. That's why the first step to redirecting attention is accepting these sensations without judgment. Emotional neutrality is key in this process. When we reduce the emotional charge associated with tinnitus, the brain starts losing interest in it. Instead of seeing it as a threat, it begins to view it as irrelevant, allowing attention to shift toward more positive aspects of life. To facilitate this shift, engaging in activities that bring joy and purpose, such as hobbies, creative projects, or social connections, can be very helpful. These actions help divert focus from the problem and channel mental energy into fulfilling experiences. Think of it as tuning a radio dial. By switching to a more pleasant frequency, unwanted sounds gradually fade. Repeating this practice strengthens new neural pathways that support a healthy response to the environment. Brain chemistry and habit formation. Our brain is like a muscle. The more we repeat certain thought and behavior patterns, the stronger they become. Neuroplasticity shows us that we can create new neural connections, and emotions play a fundamental role in this process. Feelings like self-compassion, acceptance, and celebration not only aid brain reprogramming, but also release neurotransmitters that encourage positive change. When we experience constant fear or frustration, the brain releases hormones like cortisol, which reinforce alertness and tension. On the other hand, when we cultivate positive emotions, such as gratitude and self-confidence, the brain produces substances like dopamine and serotonin, which promote well-being and reduce the perception of threats. This chemical shift creates the perfect environment for strengthening new habits and healthy responses. Repetition is one of the most important factors in building new habits. Just as we learn to drive a car or play an instrument, the brain needs time and consistency to adopt new automatic responses. Practicing small daily actions, such as relaxation exercises, deep breathing, and positive affirmations, strengthens neural networks associated with calmness and emotional balance. Steps to neuroplastic healing. Now that we understand how neuroplasticity works, it's time to apply practical strategies to reprogram the brain and reduce anxiety and tinnitus. The first step is to identify the sensations you want to cultivate, such as calmness, confidence, and enthusiasm. Brain reprogramming, self-improvement, positive mindset. This creates a clear direction for the brain to follow, allowing it to adjust according to these intentions. Once you've defined these sensations, it's essential to engage in activities that promote them. For example, if you want to feel more calm, practices such as meditation, walks in nature, or listening to relaxing music can help reinforce this mental state. The key here is repetition. The more your brain experiences these sensations, the more it becomes accustomed to maintaining them in your daily life. However, a common mistake people make is focusing too much on what they want to avoid, such as wanting to eliminate tinnitus or stop feeling anxious. This type of thinking, paradoxically, keeps attention on these unwanted sensations, reinforcing their presence. Instead, the best approach is to shift focus to what you want to achieve, replacing worries with positive and constructive actions. Another effective strategy is incorporating small daily victories into your journey. Celebrating progress, no matter how small, sends positive signals to the brain, helping to solidify new neural connections and boost motivation. With dedication and consistent practice, you can teach your brain to prioritize healthy mental states and reduce the influence of negative patterns. In the next section, we'll explore how neuroplasticity can impact not just your personal life, but also contribute to collective growth and connection with others. Collective impact and personal growth. Neuroplasticity doesn't just transform the way we perceive our own sensations, it also influences how we interact with the world around us. When we learn to redirect our thoughts and emotions toward more positive states, it reflects in our relationships and contributions to society. Anxiety and tinnitus often make us feel isolated, as if we are victims of an uncontrollable condition. However, by reprogramming the brain to focus on emotions like confidence and authenticity, we start to change the way we approach life. Instead of living in a constant state of self-defense, we begin to open ourselves to new opportunities and connections. Overcoming a victim mindset is a crucial step in this process. When we stop believing that we are powerless in the face of challenges, we gain the autonomy to take action and positively influence our environment. This personal empowerment not only improves our well-being, but also inspires others to seek their own transformation. Additionally, aligning our thoughts with authentic values strengthens our identity and helps us find greater meaning in daily activities. This can involve engaging in social projects, discovering new passions, or simply offering support to others facing similar challenges. By transforming our relationship with anxiety and tinnitus, we pave the way for continuous personal growth and deeper connections with others. In the next section, we'll discuss mindfulness and acceptance practices as essential tools for consolidating these positive changes. Mindfulness and acceptance practices. Mindfulness, or present moment awareness, is one of the most powerful tools for reprogramming the brain and better managing anxiety and tinnitus. This practice involves being fully present in the moment, observing thoughts and sensations without judgment. Instead of trying to avoid or resist uncomfortable sensations, mindfulness teaches us to accept them as a natural part of human experience. One of the most effective mindfulness techniques is body scanning, which involves directing attention to different parts of the body, acknowledging sensations without attempting to change them. This exercise helps reduce emotional reactivity and creates a mental space where the brain learns that these sensations are not threats. Non-judgmental acceptance is crucial to breaking the negative reinforcement cycle. When we react with fear or frustration to tinnitus or anxiety, we signal to the brain that these stimuli are dangerous. However, by practicing acceptance, we reprogram our emotional response, allowing the brain to categorize these sensations as irrelevant. Another powerful practice is conscious breathing. Deep, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for relaxation and well-being. This technique helps reduce anxiety levels and shift focus to the present moment. Adopting an open approach to sensations, rather than fighting against them, is an essential step in the neuroplastic healing journey. Regular mindfulness practice not only helps reduce bothersome symptoms, but also promotes an overall sense of balance and control over the mind. Now that you're familiar with all these strategies, let's move on to the conclusion, where we'll summarize the key takeaways and provide final tips for applying them in your daily life. Reprogramming the brain to cope with anxiety and tinnitus requires patience, practice, and consistency. Neuroplasticity shows us that over time, it is possible to shift our focus to more positive and healthy sensations, allowing the brain to learn to respond in a more balanced way. Throughout this video, we've learned that anxiety and tinnitus can be intensified by our own focus and emotional response. However, by applying strategies such as acceptance, cultivating positive emotions, and practicing mindfulness, we can break this cycle and create a new mental pattern. Small daily habits, such as practicing mindful breathing, showing self-compassion, and celebrating small wins, make all the difference in the brain reprogramming process. Remember, your brain is always learning, and you have the power to guide it toward greater balance and well-being. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. Your journey to a lighter and healthier life starts now.